The wind howled over the empty wooden palisades. Ashes from long-dead fires scattered across the dirt paths like forgotten memories. No footprints, no bodies, no signs of violence or struggle. Just silence, suffocating, deafening silence. It was 1590 when English explorer John White returned to the colony he had helped establish 3 years earlier, on Roanoke Island, off the coast of what is now North Carolina. He had left behind over 100 men, women, and children, including his own daughter and newborn granddaughter, the first English child born in the New World. But when he stepped ashore, there were no voices to greet him. No laughter, no cries. The settlement was gone. Not destroyed, not abandoned in a panic, but vanished as if it had never existed. And then they saw it. A single word carved crudely into a wooden post, CROATOAN. No other messages. No trail. No sign of where the colonists had gone. Just that one word, strange, haunting, and unexplained. More than 400 years have passed, and still, no one knows what happened to the lost colony of Roanoke. Was it assimilation, abduction, or something far darker? This is not just a story from history. It's a mystery that defies logic, haunts scholars, and whispers through the dense Carolina woods to this very day. What happened to the settlers of Roanoke? To understand the mystery of Roanoke, we have to go back, not just to the colony itself, but to the very beginning of an age fueled by ambition, greed, and conquest. The year is 1584. The great powers of Europe, Spain, France, and England, are locked in a brutal race to dominate the New World. Across the Atlantic Ocean lie vast, unclaimed lands, or so the Europeans believed, lands that promised gold, glory, and power. Spain had already planted its flag throughout South America and the Caribbean. Its galleons carried gold by the ton back to Madrid. Its missionaries built churches over ancient temples. England was late to the game. Queen Elizabeth I ruled a rising Protestant nation, surrounded by Catholic enemies and economic uncertainty. She needed something big, a symbol of England's future power, a permanent colony in the New World. Enter Sir Walter Raleigh, soldier, courtier, adventurer. He received a royal charter from Queen Elizabeth to explore and claim land in North America in the name of England. Raleigh had never set foot in the New World himself, but he would become the mastermind behind one of the greatest enigmas in American history. He called the new territory Virginia, in honor of the Virgin Queen. And his target was a remote island off the coast of present-day North Carolina, Roanoke. But this was no paradise. Roanoke was isolated, wild, and already home to powerful native tribes. Still, Raleigh believed it was the perfect spot for England's first permanent colony. And so began a string of voyages that would forever alter the fate of over 100 English settlers, and spark a mystery that has never been solved. The year is now 1587. The final voyage sets sail, with women, children, craftsmen, and farmers. Their goal: build a thriving English town in the wilderness of America. They were hopeful, determined, and completely unaware that they were about to vanish from history. July 1587. Over 100 settlers, men, women, and children, finally arrive on the shores of Roanoke Island. Their leader is John White, an artist, mapmaker, and one of the few with experience from a previous voyage to the region. Among the settlers are his daughter, Eleanor Dare, and her husband Ananias. Within weeks, Eleanor gives birth to a baby girl, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the New World. It should have been a hopeful beginning, but trouble was already waiting. The supplies they brought were scarce, the tools inadequate, the climate unpredictable. Swamps bred disease, crops failed, and worst of all, the land was not empty. The Roanoke Island region was already home to powerful indigenous tribes, the Secauaun, the Wampanoag, and the Croatoan among them. Initial encounters with the English had left a trail of suspicion, violence, and betrayal. Previous expeditions, including one in 1585, had ended in bloodshed. Some native leaders had been kidnapped and taken to England. Others had seen their villages attacked or burned. The memory of those acts remained fresh and bitter. John White knew tensions were high. He tried to re-establish alliances, but trust was fragile, and the settlers were desperate. Every day, food dwindled. Morale dropped. Fear grew. The settlers had expected help from the native tribes. But many tribes kept their distance. Others grew openly hostile, and Roanoke itself seemed cursed. With supplies nearly gone, the colony made a fateful decision. John White must return to England to secure reinforcements. He protested. His daughter begged him to stay, but there was no choice. They needed food, ammunition, tools, and they needed them fast. He left Roanoke in late 1587 with a promise to return within a few months. He would never see his daughter or the colony again. As John White's ship faded into the horizon, the settlers of Roanoke turned to face a brutal truth: they were alone. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and still, no word, no rescue, no return. Their supplies were already scarce. Crops failed in the unfamiliar soil. Hunting proved dangerous and unreliable. Disease crept through the camp like a silent predator. Winter came early, cold, wet, merciless. Some settlers began to whisper that they had been abandoned, that White would never return, that they had been sent here to die, pawns in a royal game played from across the sea. Their isolation was made worse by growing tension with nearby native tribes. After years of broken promises and bloodshed by previous English explorers, trust was nearly impossible to rebuild. Skirmishes broke out. Misunderstandings turned violent. And yet, not all native peoples were enemies. To the south, on nearby Hatteras Island, lived the CROATOAN, a smaller tribe with whom some settlers had begun peaceful contact. They spoke of food, of shelter, of safety. And so, deep inside the struggling colony, a question began to fester. Should they stay and risk death, or leave Roanoke behind forever? No one knew when or if John White would return, and with each passing day, the line between survival and surrender blurred. This was the final fragile chapter in the colony's short and haunted existence. What came next, no one expected. When John White returned to England in late 1587, he expected to gather supplies and return within months. But fate had other plans. The following year, 1588, England was plunged into a full-scale war with Spain. The mighty Spanish Armada, the largest fleet the world had ever seen, set sail to invade and crush the English crown. Every seaworthy ship in England was commandeered for defense. Merchant vessels, privateers, even those bound for the New World. John White pleaded with the crown. He warned that the settlers, his family, were running out of time. But national survival came first. Roanoke would have to wait. For nearly 3 years, White was stranded in England, watching, waiting, writing letters, making promises, begging for passage. Each passing season gnawed at his hope. Each report from the sea chilled his blood. He did not know if his daughter, Eleanor, was still alive, or if baby Virginia had lived to take her first steps. All he had was silence, from across a dark and widening ocean. Finally, in 1590, 3 long years after he left, John White secured passage on a private voyage bound for the American coast. His heart raced. His eyes stayed fixed on the horizon. He had to believe, that the colony was waiting, that they had survived. But when he stepped ashore on Roanoke Island, what he found would shake the world and become one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in history. August 1590. After 3 long years, John White finally returns to Roanoke. But from the moment his feet touch the sand, he knows something is wrong. The beach is silent. No children's laughter. No smoke from hearth fires. No signs of life at all. He walks through the settlement and finds ruins. The colony is gone. Not destroyed. Not burned. Just vanished. There are no bodies. No graves. No blood, no signs of struggle. Over 100 men, women, and children disappeared without a trace. One word, carved into a fence post. CROATOAN. And nearby, the letters etched into a tree. No cross, no distress symbol, no sign of violence. Only this one cryptic clue. White had made an agreement with the colonists. If they were forced to leave, they would carve a cross to signal danger. But there was no cross. Had they gone willingly? Had they joined the CROATOAN tribe on nearby Hatteras Island? Or had something far darker happened? John White wanted to search further, but a powerful storm struck the coast, damaging the ship and forcing an immediate retreat. He was never able to return. He never saw his daughter or granddaughter again. Roanoke was now a ghost colony, a silent question mark etched into history, and the only answer was a single whispered word. For centuries, the fate of the lost colony of Roanoke has haunted historians, archaeologists, and conspiracy theorists alike. Over 100 souls vanished. No graves, no smoke, no struggle, just gone. And the single word, CROATOAN, carved into wood, is the only clue they left behind. The most widely accepted theory? The settlers assimilated with the nearby CROATOAN tribe, now known as the Hatteras Indians. Roanoke was failing. Food was scarce. Their leader was gone. Desperation makes survivors seek safety. Historians point to reports of later English colonists encountering native tribes with gray eyes, English clothing, and even using English words. Could the lost colony have simply joined their neighbors and vanished into a new way of life? Another theory is far darker. Some believe the colony was attacked by hostile native tribes, perhaps as revenge for past atrocities by the English. This might explain why nothing remained. No buildings, no signs of struggle. A complete eradication. But where are the bodies? Other researchers suggest starvation and disease took hold. Some accounts hint that the colony may have resorted to cannibalism, like later settlers did in Jamestown. Did they die slowly, turning on each other in their final days? Or did they scatter into the wilderness, too weak to survive? Then there are the legends. Stories of spirits in the woods, of curses on the land, of strange disappearances. Even famed horror writer Ambrose Bierce referenced CROATOAN as a word of evil omens. Edgar Allan Poe allegedly muttered it on his deathbed. Could the colony have fallen victim to something not of this world? Some believe Spain, England's enemy at the time, may have discovered and wiped out the colony in secret. No survivors, no evidence, just silence. It would have been the perfect blow in a shadow war between empires. In recent years, new evidence has emerged, artifacts like swords, rings, and English tools discovered on Hatteras Island and at other nearby sites. Could these be relics of the lost colonists? DNA studies are underway, comparing local native tribes with possible Roanoke descendants. We are closer than ever, yet still so far. Over 400 years have passed, but the mystery of Roanoke remains. A vanished people, a single word, and a silence that still echoes across the centuries. For centuries have passed, and still, the question lingers. What happened to the lost colony of Roanoke? It is a mystery that refuses to die, precisely because it was never truly solved. From novels to documentaries, from horror shows to conspiracy podcasts, the Roanoke enigma has become part of the world's ghost stories. The word CROATOAN has become shorthand for the unexplainable. In fiction, it's a cursed word, a signal of evil, a name that appears before people vanish, as if the very land remembers. Today, Roanoke Island is a living museum. Visitors walk where the colonists once stood. They see reenactments, read journals, and stare at a replica fort, imagining what it must have been like to be left behind. And the search continues. Researchers still dig, still test, still hope for that one piece of evidence, the one artifact, the one gene, the one message that might finally close the case. We may never know what truly happened to the lost colony, but perhaps that's the power of their story, a reminder of how fragile survival once was and how a single word, carved into wood, can echo through time. They were pioneers, dreamers, and families who disappeared into legend.